So The Hangover Part 3. You're expecting a good movie? I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but this movie was awful. This is going to be my very first movie review of none other, like I said, The Hangover Part 3. So you look at the Hangover franchise as a whole. They start out with an outstanding first movie. For a comedy, great storyline, hilariously funny. I mean, it has so many lines you can just quote in that movie, and it's just your ribs hurt after watching it from laughing so much and laughing so hard. And, you know, it has some of my most favorite lines ever, like paging Dr. Faggot, and they're talking about how masturbating is frowned upon on an airplane because of Osama bin Laden. I mean, it was just an outstandingly funny movie. Now, when I heard about The Hangover Part 3 coming out, I had never saw Part 2. So I went and checked out Part 2, and I noticed it was pretty much the same thing as the very first Hangover. Not much originality, and it was practically the same premise. So, coming into Hangover Part 3, I was thinking, you know, how are they going to possibly make another Hangover movie? And would they dare, for Hangover Part 3, dare try to make a third movie where they get drunk and high on drugs for a night, lose something or someone, and find it? And they did not do that in this movie. They did go on a completely different angle. The movie takes place to where John Goodman is looking for Chow because Chow stole some money from John Goodman. So he takes Doug, and they have to bring Chow to John Goodman or else his friend dies. That's the basic premise of the movie. And Alan is having a lot of problems. He's becoming a very bad person. His parents can't handle him more. And his dad actually dies, even though that's not really a spoiler, but his dad actually dies, which forces them to leading Alan into an intervention to say, hey, we're your friends, we're your family, we love you, we want you to go get some help. Now, you're expecting this movie to be hopefully somewhat funnier than the second Hangover. And honestly, I laughed like twice in this entire movie. It was not funny at all. There was one part to where Alan is walking out of a store. It's a flashback when he first meets Doug. And he calls him, he's like, hey, what up? Expletive, racial slur, N-word to him. And Doug goes, what'd you say to me? He's like, oh, it was cool. And he's asking him for drugs. That was literally the only part I laughed at. Like I said, the movie itself, it was not that great. You know, I know I was happy that they went a whole new direction, but the storyline they chose was just not that strong. It was not that funny for a movie, you know, from the first one that had so much comedy and so much hilarity. It was just, it was a dull movie. And actually, it was kind of a pretty damn violent movie. And the way they stretched out the whole Chow storyline, you know, they remind you in this movie at least 40, 50 times that Chow is this bad of a person, blah, 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 you know, needs to be stopped, you know, as long as he's living, just more chaos and hell is going to be going through. But there was a few parts I did like. They did return to Vegas, and towards the end of the movie, and I really liked what they did with that, kind of tying all the hangovers back into one and ending it off where it all began. There was a few funny parts of the movie, like I said. It just wasn't that strong of a movie, and from the Hangover 1 down was just kind of a letdown all the way through. Like I said, the first one was so great, and the second one just tapered off, not much originality, and the third one just, it makes you happy that the series is finally dead and over. And it's kind of sad to say that from how good the first one was. And this movie, you know, it was a fun experience. It's not as bad as I thought it was, because on Rotten Tomatoes, critics were taking an absolute shit on this movie. It had a Rotten Tomato on Flickster. They were saying it's not a movie even worth wasting your time on. But I didn't think it was that bad. Now, let me say this to finish this off. If you want to see the last Hangover, if you saw both movies already, go ahead, do it. It's not that bad. I gave the movie about a 5 out of 10. It's not that bad to where it's not enjoyable, and the way it ends does end off pretty nice, and it fully wraps up the Hangover series. But if you're expecting a lot of hilarity, a lot of comedy, and it's going to be a funny movie, it's really not that much for comedy at all. It's more of kind of like an action movie than anything. You know, there's not really many funny parts. So I give it a 5 out of 10. If you want to go see it, go see it. It's not as bad as some critics are saying, but it's not that great either. So, thanks for watching my first movie review. Tell me what you thought of it. If I can improve on anything, let me know.